There's a guy came to me one time and said, Copeland, I want you to pray for me. Man, he said, he said, I got a hold of this thing, brother. Yeah. And I want you, he said, I got this deal hanging, man. It's hanging. And he said, get in here and agree with me. And he told me all this stuff that the Lord had told him to put into this ministry. Several $1 million worth of stuff. And he said, there's more than that in this deal. I'm telling you. And so I prayed about it. Not just about his deal. I went before God. I ain't going to get tied up praying for you some dumb deal like one guy come to me, wanted me to pray over a business deal that he's working on now. He said, Copeland, this thing is just out of this world. I said, it is? Yeah. I said, what is it? Well, he said, I'll tell you, God put it in my hand. I said, what is it? He got a hold of a boatload of cigarettes. But he's only going to sell them to the Arabs. I said, well, I ain't going to kill the Arabs with them anymore with anybody else. He said, well, the wealth of the wicked laid up for the just. It may be, but it ain't your place to go take it away from him and particularly kill him to get it up. That ain't going to work. That's your flesh trying to justify the word of God that you're supposed to be living on. And money gets people into that kind of mess. Go to acting like a fool. Why? Lust of the flesh, pride of life, and the lust of the eye. Well, this guy on prayed about it, and the Lord said, yeah, get in there and agree with him. He said everything he said, I told him to do where his partnership with this ministry is concerned. So, man, I got in there and prayed and believed God, and the deal came through. Millions of dollars. He, instead of doing what God told, he sent me some little old token, you know. Oh, yeah, but I was saying, something like $4,000 or $5,000, dear God. And he said, I'm going to buy you a jet airplane, I'm going to do all this. And God had told him to do that. But his deal was when he got that money, he said, now, I'll tell you what I got done here. He said, with that money, I could borrow 10 times that amount of money. And I had another opportunity to take all that and put it over here. And he did. And lost the whole, that he didn't lose it. The devil stole it off of him. I've seen that happen over and over. You can imagine how many times that's happened over a period of 30 years. Because, see, I started preaching this before I'd been in the ministry a year. So, about 31 years. This is 31 years, 9 months, and 11 or 12 days here. And so it's been about 31 years since I've been preaching this. Well, back there then, people would con God. Every way, which way but loose, because they didn't believe him in the first place. But you get into those kind of situations and you open the door for spiritual activity. Now, you can do that, for instance, like this. I had the Lord say to me back there years ago, he said, now, whatever I tell you to do, even if it takes longer to do it, you endeavor to keep it inside your own house instead of farming it out to somebody else to do. He was talking to me, first of all, about the tapes that we were making. Well, dear God, to keep it in-house, that meant I had to make them. And that's what I did. In the first meeting we went on where we sold any tapes, we sold 90 some odd of them, 94 I think. Well, I didn't know what a duplicator was. I got 2 tape recorders here hooked up, and I'm making these things one at a time. And which meant, see, 94 tapes, that'd be the same as 188 tapes now, because there was 2 messages on both sides. And it's a reel-to-reel job. And I ain't going to be home but about 10 days. That's the only reason I was home at all. Because back then, the only reason I come home was to get new clothes. I didn't have enough to stay out very long. Had to come back and wash and leave. And so I'm making these tapes. Man, I didn't sleep. I had to make tapes. And then I was sitting there looking at that thing one day and it said 1 7/8, 3 3/4, and 7 1/2. I got a long time to sit here, you understand. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning and I am tired. I'm tired of hearing me preach. I'm tired of this thing. Now, you have to understand, I had to make the tapes too. I didn't have money to buy tapes. There was a guy at a big tape company there that gave me a bunch of tape remnants, and they had anywhere from 50 to 150 foot of tape on the end of a spool. I had this huge, great big cardboard box. He called me over there and said, "You got any use for this stuff?" I said, "Oh yeah." And I had to splash those reels together to get enough tape to do it. I spent a lot of time looking at that tape recorder. I'm sitting here, it's up in the middle of the morning. I say, "Well, dear Lord, Brother Coleman, why didn't you just go have somebody else make you tape?" That's what I'm getting at. I'm preaching stuff that the devil would love to kill. He loved to kill me. Tried it all the time. People get a hold of your tapes and edit them around, make you say something you didn't say. Edit out. They wouldn't just edit stuff out. They would edit it around and make you say something that was just so far off of the wall, people just want to ship you away, you know. So I'm sitting there, Gloria's asleep, and I'm sitting there. And the Spirit of God said, yeah.
That was the only place to be.
That's the only place to be. She said you was in the bedroom, but there's the only place to be. I mean, there wasn't no other room to be in, you understand? And so I'm sitting here, and I'm looking at that, and the Spirit of God said, divide 7 1/2 by 2. It's 3 3/4. Mm-hmm. Now it said divide 3 3/4 by 2. It's 1 7/8. I said, "Lord, do you mean that?" He said, "Yeah, you can do that. You mean I can record this as 7 1/2? The tape was recorded at 3 3/4 when it was put on the tape." I said, "Do you mean I could duplicate this thing at 7 1/2 and then slow it back down and it'd play right at 3 3/4? Well, that's what a duplicator does, dummy." But I didn't know that, you understand. I have never seen a duplicator in my entire life. I didn't know the thing had 3 speeds on them when I first started recording. I tried it with kind of fear and trembling. I can't afford to tear one of these up. And it worked. Son, this is going to cut this thing in half. I was so thrilled. But I refuse to put that out for somebody else to Mickey Mouse around with it. That belonged to God. There's no such thing as too good enough for gospel. I got into a recording studio one time making a record, that old record called Jesus Country. And I got in there and they had a steel guitar picker in there. And he's sitting over there smoking one cigarette right after another. And here again, somebody else paid for the session. See? That's the last time anybody else ever paid for a recording session that I sang in. I'm not going to compromise that, because when you do, it's a debt. You see what I'm getting at here? I've bowed my knee. I've yoked up. And I sang through this thing several times and did several takes on it. And I said, "Boys, we can do that, brother. Let's go back through that again." And that guitar picker said, "Oh, that's good enough for gospel." Oh,